Hello everyone, welcome to Triple T Thursday. I'm back. I want to chat with y'all and I have a topic in mind, and you know what, this one may be a little controversial. It may get me some hot water. It may get me ruffled some feathers of people out there. You know what? It is what it is. So let's chat about this. There was, if you are, where are my manners? First of all, it's nice to be back. What is in your cup today? Okay, so let's chat about that because that's important. All right, so today in my cup, we're back to the Awake English Breakfast Tea, and I have a little bit of honey in it. I do have a throat tickle, so that is what's in my cup today. I see Pixel P in the chat. Are you drinking coffee? You feel free to let me know if you're drinking coffee. Speaking of, let me put this over here on this. There we go. All right, so today I want to have a discussion about some of the life lessons that I think that we can learn from the channel makers, Nate Black, exit, departure, however you want to call that. And this is not any particular bashing session on channel makers, not a particular bashing session on Nate Black. Marcus Schaub has been one of us for 60 months. Thank you so much. And one of us. And this is actually there. I want to talk about this specifically, but I also want to talk about some of the caveats and warnings about brands who have, I'm not going to say ambassadors, but front channel facing creators. Okay. So this is a phenomenon that is fairly new-ish, I would say. Okay. And what we have are channels that are for companies. Sometimes it's going to be customer service facing. Sometimes it's tips and tutorials on how to use a product, a lot of the time with SaaS, right? You have a lot of people who may have created some sort of product. They're starting to sell it. And then they are like, oh, you know, one of the easiest ways to get people to understand how to use our product or whatnot is going to be by having tutorials or some sort of video presence. So whether that's embedded videos in a frequently asked questions on their website, whatnot have you, then they start to make videos. Herein starts to lie a problem where you may have someone who, as a founder, does not want to be the face of their own channel. This happens more often than you would think because a lot of the time, the people who are making the product, sometimes they lean more into software, and when they do, they're not always the best. I am speaking in generalities here. They're not always the best with public performance, speaking, video stuff, and maybe they believe that, you know, their time is better spent fixing bugs, making the product better, working on new features, right? So once you have something like that happen, but you want to have content on your product, you have to go down one of two routes. You may have like an in-house creator. You may have the brand, someone who works at the brand start to make the content. You may hire someone from outside as a contract, right? You've got that definitely going on. And there are lots of examples where this has happened, okay? So, and there's lots of examples where it's the person who has created the product also being the one to create the content. So here, or if they don't create the content, sometimes they still stay in very close alignment with the product. So for something like that, I'm going to say Ken and Glenn for eCam. So these are twin brothers that have created the product. They most of the time prefer to be working on said product, improving, fixing bugs, and they have a lot of help. They bring in a lot of people to help with content. So Katie is usually wrangling horses and herding cats over there for lots of different shows that are broadcast on the eCam channel, right? And then they hired Doc, who was homegrown from their own kind of like Discord help community, Facebook group, and then kind of in-house residents, right? So I think of that as a very symbiotic relationship a lot of the time because they have lots of different contributors. And then Ken and Glenn still come on quarterly, I would say, and do like these town councils, informational updates. Here's the new release. Let me walk through it with you because sometimes it's the software developers that are best going to be able to explain those, right? And then you have someone like Gage at StreamYard. kind of the same route. Every once in a while, they were doing some of these community live streams, and then they started hiring a lot of people to do these shows, right? So Dee and Daniel were doing a show over there. I know they had a ton of sponsors for other people doing shows, but they were having and hosting shows on the StreamYard channel itself. And then we have some companies like Genius Link. So my friend Jesse Lakes, he definitely wasn't super excited about being on camera. He was approached by someone from the outside saying, hey, I can make some of these tutorials and whatnot for you. And he was like, great, two birds, one stone, because I don't really want to be on camera, but we need someone to kind of talk about it, okay? Then I also think about, my friend Phil Starkovich, who created TubeBuddy. And when you have something like that, he definitely did not want to be in front of the camera and making tutorials. And he and his brother were both software engineers, right? And they want to be making the product. They want to be developing those types of new features. And so, they had Andrew over there, Andrew Can, for a good 4 or 5 years being the front person there. And then I think of Rob Wilson and vidIQ. Now, the thing with Rob is that he already had a YouTube channel it's his self that was already pretty successful. He was doing a lot of tech tutorials and then he became the creator in residence or in-house creator for vidIQ and making all of these contents. Occasionally, they still have some other people. They might come in for a live stream or some sort of podcast episode or a guest. But for the most part, he was kind of the main person. And then after a while, you have a channel kind of like Sean Cannell, right, at Think Media. And for many, many years, he operated as just himself. And but then he became kind of a media company, and he had, Heather Torres, who has subsequently left. We have Nolan Molt, who I don't know if he was fired or left it on his own, but has now gone on to do his own. So we have to talk about that, okay? And then we have, he had Omar El Takori on the channel, and there were multiple people then starting to appear on the channel. So now let's get to channel makers. Channel makers is a unique property in itself because what I thought it was and what I was presented as thinking that it was turned out to be kind of a big fat lie. But I want to use this as an example of what happens when a relationship between maybe a brand and the front person, for lack of a better term, kind of goes to shit and has a lot more questions than answers. So with this, I don't want to get into a whole bunch of hearsay. I'm going to actually bring up a blog post, which I will also, let me see, I think I can link it as a comment. So I will do that. And so you guys can see exactly what I'm reading from. I am going to screen share and I'm going to put this up. And this is maybe for some people old news. This happened a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. And so you may be like, why are you bringing this up now? Because I think enough time has passed. Well, one, some people in the parties have maybe gotten over it a little bit, but I think that it's a good reflection and look back period for us to take a peek at. So let's go into this. Let me share my screen with you all. Where is my, there you go. And over here, I am going to, why do you not believe I'm in Ecamm? Okay, I want to be me in a web page. Hopefully it's going to pick the right one. Yes. Okay. So here is the blog post that was written by the owner or one of the owners of the channel makers people team. I don't know what to call them. Okay. So just bear with me. This is what we're calling it. So, how do I want to make it bigger. Is it growing? Boom, 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 boom. I want you guys to be able to see this. Hopefully that helps. Also, be prepared. This is a very long blog post. Okay, so as we go through this, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts and questions about it, we can definitely talk about this. So what we have here is a timeline laid out from Ricky Kessler. Okay, and this was done August 10th of 2023, so almost exactly a year ago. Okay, we're going to be coming over here and starting to read this. So it says, I've received a lot of questions about the events surrounding Nate Black leaving Channel Maker's YouTube channel, and I've heard even more speculation. So due to the misinformation and false assumptions that have been spread, it has become necessary for me to explain those events. And the purpose of this post is to cover the major events surrounding why Nate left and the Income School team. My goal is to stick to facts and the timeline. This is not a list of complaints against Nate. It is merely a list of events that are pertinent to Nate's leaving Income School and the speculation and rumors being spread. Okay, so as this comes over here, now I think I can zoom in a little bit more. We've seen that. Let me see if I can zoom. I apologize. It's a lot of text, but you know what? I didn't write it. Okay, but I'm sharing it with you. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to zoom in. Hopefully y'all see this. Okay. So here we go. February 2020. So we are going back to February 2020. So hello to Chantel. Hello to Marcus. Hello to everybody. So February 2020, Income School, created and owned at the time by Ricky Kessler and Jim Harmer. Hopefully you guys have to see it here. So these two guys are the owners. They hire Nate Black to do the following as per the offer letter. So Nate Black is not an owner. Okay, we have Ricky and we have Jim. Ricky and Jim are the owners of Income School, which I didn't even know Channel Makers was Income School. Okay, so this was already like weird to me when all of this information started coming out. And I will save my judgment. It'll probably creep in as it does throughout. So here we're just laying out some events and get started. So what he was hired to do, this is pertaining to Nate: manage email campaigns, grow the email list, planning, scheduling, and running webinars for Project 24 members and broader audience to drive product sales, networking with other influencers to grow the affiliate program, other marketing activities to grow and diversify marketing for Income School products. At the time of his hire, Nate signed the Income School at-will employment agreement, which most states have, which included sections of confidentiality, non-competition, probably non-solicitation too, and work product. To the best of my recollection, he did not raise any concerns about this agreement at the time that he agreed to it. So this is 2020. And the text of these sections of the agreement is as follows. Okay. So as you start to come in here, we have information about confidentiality. We have information, and this particular one, you can follow along. You can go to the blog post, all that stuff if you want to read it. But basically they're saying like, hey, stuff that you learn here, you're not supposed to use it. Okay. Non-competition, and non-solicitation. So it is in there, non-solicitation as well. So employee agrees that during the employment and for 2 years after termination by either party, employees shall not directly or indirectly compete with the employer for any area within 150 miles of 124 North Seneca Springs Way, Star, Idaho, and also from Rexburg, Idaho, which is where the company was like founded and doing business. So this is important to know. They're in Idaho. They said for 2 years, you cannot solicit and you cannot compete with us in the same type of thing that could tarnish or be in competition with us. Now, subsequently, now it is 2024, and I know it's already starting to go through litigation, and who knows, the FTC has tried to say that non-competes are no longer eligible, but at the time, in 2020, this was not a thing, okay? And so because this has recently become a thing, as in like the month of June, when all of this stuff has started coming out and when he made his new channel and all that stuff, it would have still applied, okay? So if you're with me so far, give me a thumbs up on this stream, okay? So here we go, right? We have trade secrets. We don't want you doing this, all of that, non-competition, the work product itself, the information that is developed or generated wholly or partially by employee during their employment, including intermediate and partial versions thereof a work product, whether or not protected by copyright, will be the sole property of employer. So Nate doesn't own those, or any employee that's signing this agreement. Anything that you create while you're still working there is going to be subject to ownership from your employer. Okay. And then the copyrights here. And then all of that information. Okay, so that is February of 2020. He is hired, and this is 2 months before lockdown and everything was going on for COVID. We're going to move on to May of 2022. Okay, so it says during one of several paid mental health breaks that Nate took, I worked with the team to create a video on the topic of how to add more people to a YouTube channel. So I'm assuming this is going to be stuff like roles and responsibilities and stuff like that. This video reintroduced Anna from our team to the channel. And I recall telling Nate that I wanted it published, but that I also wanted to give him a chance to look it over and recommend any changes prior to publishing. To the best of my recollection, he said he thought it was good, but he had a few tweaks he wanted to make before publishing. I left it in his hands and he never published it. So he simply never published this video that introduced Anna on the Channel Makers team as someone else who works on making videos for this company. Okay. So this is May of 2022. So the boss says, hey, I want you to make this video public on our channel. He says, let me do some tweaks to it. Never publishes it. August of 2022. Ricky gives Nate a $10,000 bonus for 2 reasons, which I remember informing him at the time. Number one, $10,000 is the amount that he remembers Nate said that he would need to really kick off his own personal YouTube channel. He had been using some work time that we dedicated for personal projects to plan videos for his own channel. Other team members and I helped him plan and work through several hurdles. That sounds very nice, very generous. Number 2, I felt he did a great job on lesson updates to our YouTube course, which we rebranded as the YouTube system. Okay. So he gets a bonus, $10,000, partially because the $10,000 was notated as how much money Nate said that he would need to start his own personal YouTube channel. And then the employees at Income School, Income School, we're just going to call it that from here on out, even helped him plan. And they're also sometimes doing this in allocated work week time. Okay. He says, I gave this bonus at a time that I do not normally give bonuses, and no bonuses were given to any other team members. This was a special case and was intended to help him kick off his personal channel. It was not an investment and no ownership or other consideration was ever expected. However, I did clearly state that helping him get his channel started was a large part of the reason why I chose the timing and that specific amount to give him. Yet, as time passed, we saw zero indication that his personal channel had ever started. And while other team members continued to make progress on their own personal projects, he never reported progress aside from the planning. To our knowledge, he never produced any content for his personal channel. So here he has $10,000 to start his YouTube channel. He has people helping him come up with ideas, and he hasn't done it yet or hasn't made it public to the team. So for more than 2 years, we have encouraged team members to create their own content businesses, just like we teach at Income School and on the Channel Makers YouTube channel. We give some time to work and meet as a team to get advice, share experiences, and have accountability for our progress on our own blogs and channels. I even offered Nate and others the opportunity to use my equipment to film their videos as long as they use their own time to do it. Nate could have started his own channel at any time, yet to date, we had not seen any videos published or even filmed. So that is a pretty generous offer because if he has all of this expensive equipment that he's using at his own business, he says, yeah, go ahead as long as it's on your own time and nothing. Okay. We move on to October of 2022. Okay. Nate and I attended VidSummit conference together. We discussed many strategies for channel makers and Income School during the conference, and I remember telling him that I felt like we had a great strategy and the right tools now to introduce more of the team on channel makers and expand the brand beyond him. At this time, as at previous times, I remember him expressing his support for such a change. However, as weeks passed, he still continued to plan videos with Julia, the channel manager I hired to help us plan our videos. In these videos, he continued to not include other team members on camera. Julia even recalled Nate telling her that he didn't want her to just look like a cheap Nate knockoff, which is why he didn't want her to appear on camera. Throughout the fall, we had several meetings where we discussed what our individual channel roles and characters a term from a talk at VidSummit, would look like, and how we could each offer our own personalities and expertise to both channel makers and Income School. Side note, I met Nate at VidSummit 2022. He, one, had no idea who I was. That's fine. I don't expect anyone to ever know who I am. I think I even tried to say howdy because obviously that was his tagline. I don't think I could have been less invisible to him. And it could be that during this time when he was talking and he was just very busy, but I will say my one interaction that I had with him, he was not kind to me. So, in fact, for years, we've discussed the need to overcome the issue of having the entire audience become attached to only one or two team members. We've referred to it as the Ramsey problem, named after the radio host and influencer Dave Ramsey. Yet, in a recent email to me, Nate told me that he shouldn't be held accountable because my direction on the topic was quote-unquote unclear. See below. I specifically recalled telling Nate in December that the first of the new year would be a great opportunity to introduce more team members to the channel, and he still did not do it. Okay, so here we have Ricky, the boss, okay, and we have Nate, who is an employee, okay, and Ricky is saying we need to introduce more people. We can't just have the audience get attached to one person. We can't just also, not only have one person only in mind, but it's going to become harder for then other people to come on the channel. I remember this being a thing also, a little bit of a thing at TubeBuddy as well, where people started to always recognize Andrew as like Mr. TubeBuddy. And I think he was really, even though Phil was the owner, and Jim and their dad, I feel like people a lot of the time thought that Andrew owned TubeBuddy. And he didn't always go out of his way, I think, to maybe say that he was an employee of TubeBuddy and not specifically an owner of TubeBuddy. Whereas I think it's very clear when you have someone like Rob Wilson, who's like, yeah, I'm the creator in residence, or I work for, or something like that, versus, like the Gage or Ken and Glenn, where you very clearly know that they are either the owners or, you know what I'm saying? Or I think of Descript, where they just hired, I think his name is Hamdi, and it's very clear that he doesn't work as an owner of Descript, but he works as an employee of Descript, making videos. Hopefully that makes sense. Hey, Doc Rock, great to see ya. Great to see you. It is feeling a little bit better. I just went to the orthopedic person yesterday. They gave me a steroid shot in my knee, and I am moving around a little bit better. They've assigned physical therapy and then a more serious check back talk in 4 weeks if it's not improving. So I am hopefully on the upswing. So we'll see. So, and I was actually talking about you earlier. I was saying it's very obvious that Ken and Glenn are the owners and the creators and the software developers over at Ecamm. And while Doc is a very known person, he usually makes it very clear, hey, I came from the Facebook group. They plucked me. They, gave me all of these cool rights, and I get to help people as my job. And he is an employee of, he is not the only person. And they also do a good job of highlighting other people in shows and rotating sometimes a roster of people throughout the channel as well. Okay? Hi, Baba. So you're surrounded by moderators. You better be good then. Okay, so now we are going to move on to February of 2023. Okay, so now we are 1 year in from employment. Okay, they've asked in that year, hey, I want you to introduce other people on the channel. Hey, here's a video introducing someone else, never publishing it, not planning any of these videos. Okay. So here we are, February of 2023. Late in February, we began working remotely for what was expected to be 2 months because our lease was ending and our new office wasn't ready yet. Prior to leaving, we had a meeting where we discussed our priorities while working remote. Nate planned to fully outline a new course for Project 24 so that it would be completely ready to film when we returned. He was also considering some ideas for advanced offerings for YouTubers with more established channels. Okay. So they're shutting down the office. They don't have a lease anymore for the next 2 months. Nate is planning some videos so that when they come back in the office, hopefully they're going to be good to go. We're moving on to May of 2023. What we have here is after more than 3.5 months, we finally got into the new office. So there was a delay. Okay. And they finally got in officially on May 25th. Other team members helped move furniture prior to the 25th, but Nate only came in on May 30th. I think it's funny that they here's where I am, just in case you want to follow along. So he came in on the 30th. The day before, he had a 2-week paid vacation planned. So he didn't help them move into the new office, which I guess I kind of understand. It's usually not fun, but usually small office, you think you would help out, but that's okay. So he came in on one day, and then it was the day before he had a 2-week vacation planned. So he said, I met with him to get an update on his projects. In this meeting, he told me that he had put the course he planned to create on hold because he didn't know if it was still the priority. Why don't you send an email or a Slack and ask? But he also couldn't show me any progress on his advanced YouTube offerings other than having sent out an email and a message to our members for feedback. So that was what he was responsible for in February 2023 was the planning. And then here he comes in May, at the end of May, right before his vacation, and he has nothing to show. So, all right, we're moving on. We are at June 2023. I told you this thing is long, y'all. We haven't even gotten through halfway. So I reviewed the numbers for channel makers. I do this monthly in order to pay Nate his commissions of all income earned as a result of channel makers' content. During the more than 3.5 months we worked remotely, channel makers had steadily declined in views and subscriber growth. Revenue from channel makers was also declining. Over that same time period, I also couldn't account for more than what I considered to approximately be 2 weeks worth of work product. So, gosh, rather than make assumptions, okay, I chose to write up a letter explaining my concerns and asking him for an account of the work he had done during the nearly 4-month period. I also laid out specific conditions I expected him to follow, but said that they could be removed or adjusted if he felt, if he just explained what was going on. He said, here's the letter that I sent him on June 6th. Okay. How do I? Okay, we got to zoom back out. Give me a second. Come back over here. And then I have to, this one. So this is the letter that your boss sends you. Okay. Here we are. I can't scroll up though. Dear Nate, it is discouraging that I find the need to write and send you this letter. Since when you get back to the office, I will be starting my vacation. We won't be in the same place for a couple of weeks, and I believe this needs to be addressed now. Hey, Doug. I was concerned after our discussion last week when you told me you hadn't made any progress on either the YouTube Beginnings course or any of the more advanced offerings we previously discussed. My concerns were multiplied when I ran the numbers for the month and saw how Channel Makers is performing. I want to preface this by saying that I'm trying not to make assumptions. I'm sharing with you as transparently as I can what it looks like. So please understand that this is what I'm perceiving. If I'm off base, please clarify for me. I've done all I can to provide you with a work environment that's conducive to your creative process. I've allowed you a lot of work from home, time off for mental health, in addition to our generous and flexible vacation policy, and I've been very hands-off on the YouTube side of the company because you've told me that you like having the creative control that comes with ownership. I've also provided you with an income and pay structure that gives you control of your income without any of the risks that actually come with business ownership. Yet, over time, this freedom and income haven't seemed to be satisfactory, and over the last 3 months, while we worked remotely, my concerns have amplified. Here is the gist of my most serious concerns right now. 1. I have no visibility into what you were doing for 3 months while working remotely. Here is the output that I can see from the 3 month of work. A few lesson outlines for updates to the YouTube system that I could find in Teams. No progress on the YouTube Beginnings course, despite that being one of the main projects I understood you to be working on while remote. We discussed having that course completely ready to film once we returned to the office, which we originally expected to happen over a month earlier than it did. A simple call to me would have clarified my priorities if that was ever in doubt. Exactly, I said. Just a phone call, right? Approximately 6 videos filmed for channel makers, some of which were planned, at least in part, by other team members. 3 channel audits for channel makers insiders. Approximately 6 podcast episodes recorded that were planned by Julia. This output accounts for no more than 2 full weeks worth of work, and that's generous. Is there some other work you are doing that I'm not accounting for? Over this time, you should have done 512 hours of work based on 64 work days from the day we went remote until you came back to the office. Even accounting for a week of sick time, you should have accomplished far more than what I've listed above. This breeds serious doubt what you were actually working on throughout the time we were all working remotely. This is further exacerbated by the many times I noticed that you were completely offline on Teams during normal work hours. All of this leads to a perception that you were collecting a paycheck while not working for the better part of 3 months or a quarter of the year. Channel Makers is on a downhill slide. March, April, and May are showing fewer views each month. Revenue from Channel Makers was the lowest it's been in a full year. In fact, new sales of Project 24 were lower this May than they were a year ago in May. It is likely that Channel Makers cost more to run last month than it earned. We hired Julia to create processes for us to help us make better videos more productively. But you've had her change the system over and over again and then not followed it in many instances, leading to delays and causing your videos to take on average, twice as long to edit as income school videos. You've taken excessive time off compared to any other member of the team. Our handbook states that you should plan for 15 days and that our policy is generous, but requires that everyone be respectful of the company and other employees. I've expressed many times we need to add other people to Channel Maker videos. We discussed it at Vid Summit. We talked about kicking off the new year with many other peoples and characters on Channel Makers. Yet that has not happened, and there's a perception that you are dragging your feet and don't want anyone else on the channel. Here's the thing too, is when you have someone who is hired to make content, sometimes they start to believe that that channel is their channel and they want to make decisions that way. They become protective of it. They don't want other people on it. It can become absolutely a thing. In the meantime, you've asked other team members to plan your videos. It sounds like you expect Nathan and Julia to plan each video for you each month, but that leaves no videos for you to own. You've told me many times that you want to have unlimited earning potential and that you want the motivation that comes from having your earnings tied to your output. You want the benefits of ownership. If you were an owner, you would get paid this month because you didn't earn anything. Owners put in the work. Most owners get paid last, and that's what's left after paying everyone else. Channel Makers has grown significantly under your creative control, and I've paid you well for that. Both of the last 2 years, you took home 6-figure income. Channel Makers has thrived because I gave you the license to run with it and because I created the environment where you could grow risk-free. It earns what it does because I built Project 24. You've added to it, but what you've done is all built on what Jim and I created first and made possible because I gave you the environment to build it. In short, Channel Makers is doing well under your control, but it only earns what it does because Project 24, its infrastructure, and our YouTube instruction already exists. On your own, you never would have built what we have today, yet it seems, again my perception, that you want to claim credit for more and more of it. Based on these concerns, here's what I need to see to change for the time being. Number 1, commissions. The current structure incentivizes the wrong behavior. I've never failed to give generous bonuses to the people who work hard and achieve results, but this commission structure makes it easier just to run a sale in months that are typically high and coast through the months like May that are historically low. work from home. You need to be in the office working a full 40-hour work week until further notice. Ooh. Given the time off, paid vacation for the year has been used up. Once you return from this vacation, any other time off will be unpaid leave. This probably sounds like overkill. I assure you it is not. The rest of the team works from the office except upon request or unless they have prior arrangements with me. Other jobs I've worked have expected employees in the office during work hours without exception. Likewise, 2 weeks of paid vacation per year is standard for professional employees. Many people are only allowed unpaid vacation. You've already used up more than 2 weeks of paid time off, and we're not even halfway through the year. I am not trying to punish you. I'm letting you know what I'm seeing, and I'm setting a boundary. I can't pay people to not put in a full work week. If you are putting in the time and I'm just not seeing it, then the chances are we need to reevaluate the work you're doing so it is better tied to results. Given the current perception and the results on the YouTube side of the company, here are my expectations. Weekly channel makers videos, including team members on videos in at least 50% of videos. Follow the SOPs for video protection as written by Julia and agreed upon by our team. Participation in planning and creating content for all channels we're working on. You've expressed a desire to run our YouTube strategy. This should be across all channels, not just one. Film the YouTube Beginnings course by July 15th so we can publish it. It honestly is likely to have a lot more financial benefit to the company than any small group high-touch offerings we can do. I care about you and your happiness and job satisfaction. I want to be able to provide for yourself and your family to the level of your satisfaction. I've done what I can to provide an environment that is conducive to that, but I'm not seeing the engagement from you that I've been in the past and I've expected given the environmental and opportunities I've provided. I honestly hope that I am mistaken and that you have more to show for the last 3 months and that I'm reading too much into things. I would be happy to reconsider some of these conditions, but I need assurances from the situation. It is not what it seems. Please respond by the end of business hours on Thursday with anything you think I should know. Sincerely, Ryan Kessler. That was a lot in that letter, y'all. That was a lot. Okay. It was, I think you're right, Marcus, when you're saying that being the boss requires to lead and manage people. And it looks like there was a little too much, too little of that, and it's too little too late. And what's funny about that is there are definitely some people who want to leave it to other people. Yes. And then when they finally realize that something is happening, they're like, whoa, what have I been missing? And by then it's, too late. And you may have someone who's a little bit stuck in their ways or considering that they believe that they have every right to have it continue the way that it is, or perhaps the mean man is coming down on them too hard, right? All right, so we've gone through the letter. What do you guys think about this so far? I think it's, I'm not trying to say it's, but I think it's interesting the way that we have this communication rolling down. It's not very often that we see this level of transparency coming in from an owner. Like, I just never expect that I would see someone like a Phil Starkovich come out and say like a 20-page document probably about all the things that they do or don't feel that, happened whenever, let's say Andrew or the Ben takeover or how any of that went. I just don't see that happening. So I feel like for someone to do this, they must feel like they're at the end of their like rope in a way to be like, no, you guys are misunderstanding me and we're going to clear this up. At least this is the only thing I've got in my arsenal is to like speak up for myself. If you look at the Channel Makers YouTube channel now, also I was just looking at it yesterday because I haven't caught up with them and really been up to date. All of the videos that Nate seemed to be in, they all seem to be gone. And I think their only videos are from starting this year. So they must have privated all of them. I don't know. I don't know how many subscribers they lost, like when Nate left and started his own channel, and we could look at that if you want to. But this is just interesting stuff so far that we're seeing. Okay. So that's the letter. He says, if you want to know what was really going on that led Nate to Nate leaving, I strongly encourage you to read this letter. To this day, Nate has not given any account of the work he did during the more than 3.5 month period of remote work. Other than that, what I stated in the letter. Nate's response didn't answer my questions. Instead, he suggested that we meet, which wasn't immediately possible as he was on vacation and I was working long hours preparing to leave for my 1-week vacation with my family. So he said, here is the response that I did receive from Nate. Okay, I'll open this one. Sorry, you're just going to have to trust me. I'm going to read it to you. It says, Ricky, your letter helped me realize I had not been expressing my thankfulness for the opportunity of income school. Let me make this bigger. And your influence have created as often as I could. Income School from the beginning has represented an amazing place to help people and build new things. I've absolutely loved having the ability to create value and valuable things for the team and our clients. I've fully enjoyed the chance to work with you personally, travel, and see your passion for doing good and choosing excellence. You've been an inspiration to me. Thank you for providing that for me and the others on the team. It's not easy to do what you have done and continue to do, and I'm very grateful that you've chosen it. There are several things within your letter that I agree with and feel like I very much understand your perspective and concerns. Primarily, I agree that my effort and energy have not been where it could have been during this remote period of work. So here he's acknowledging he slacked off. Okay. Even though I did do more than your letter listed during the same period, I apologize, acknowledge it, and intend to do better. There are also some things I disagree with in your letter, makes sense, as well as some other problems I feel are not covered. If you'd like a discussion on it, we can talk more in person or over the phone if desired. Overall, it seems like our working relationship might be suffering from a lack of communication and a lack of understanding of each other's visions and goals for the work we're doing. We're both flawed humans, especially me. I don't know if you need to call your boss flawed, and right and wrong on a variety of things. I'm ready to own my mistakes and move forward. I genuinely think that further discussion would be a valuable next step. I know this might be difficult with the travel situations we have going on right now, but I look forward to hearing from you. And until then, I'll work by the guidelines outlined in your letter. Cheers. Okay? So, we have 2 letters. Here we are on this next section. Let me highlight it so we can see where you all are. Okay, here we go. On June 19th, my first day back after both mine and Nate's vacations had ended, Nate and I had a meeting in the afternoon. When it came time to discuss the letter, I asked him for his thoughts. His first words were, "What the hell?" He told me that he wasn't coasting, but he still didn't tell me what else he'd been working on during the 3.5 months of remote work. Okay. I recall telling him about concerns from other team members that despite my directions, he had told them that he didn't think it mattered if they ever appeared on camera. He denied having said this. By the end of the meeting, he told me he wanted to begin a transition away from income school. I said nothing during the meeting about him leaving the company. This was the first time it had come up. I told him I would be supportive and that we could work out a time frame and a plan for a transition. So his boss asked him, "Hey, what have you been doing for the last 4 months? I can't see anything." Nate first agrees and says, "Yeah, I haven't been doing a lot." And then when they finally get back from vacation, it looks like Nate says, "Well, I want to leave." Okay. So the following morning on June 20th, we met and he told me he would give me up to the end of the month and that he didn't want to film any more videos except a video introducing the team and saying goodbye to the YouTube audience and Project 24 team members. So the very next day he says, "I don't want to film any more videos for you and you have until the end of the month." This is 10 days. And I'm sure that's not 10 working days. It's just 10 calendar days. So we gathered the team and planned these videos together. I gave Nate license to create his own video saying goodbye, and he assisted in the planning of the video, introducing the rest of the team. I remember this specific video, and we'll talk about this. He said, "We also came up with a list of tasks that he needed to be done to hand off his work to other team members. He finished up and chose to leave that same week on Friday." So he did not give... he said, giving us less than 4 work days and 2 videos to complete the full transition on YouTube. Okay. He says, "Oh, wow." Guys, I haven't read all of this, so I'm reading it now with you guys too. He says, we threw him a goodbye party on his last day, even though he didn't even give 2 weeks. He gave 2 weeks. He said, I'll work till the end of the month, and he only worked 1 week and gave. Okay, he says, we threw him a goodbye party. Leading up to, during his last day, multiple team members asked Nate about what he planned to do after leaving. He said he didn't have any concrete plans, only ideas at that point. He later told me in an in-person meeting that he didn't begin any planning at all until after he'd left income school. However, Julia recalled on June 24th, the day before his last day, when she asked casually what his plans were, that he said, and inappropriate to discuss his plans while he still worked there, but that she would know when it happened because it was going to be big. Oh boy. So it sounds like he was, they're intimating that he was already planning on stuff. Okay. In the week that Nate left, some team members I told that I should watch Nate's goodbye video. In the video, he spent considerable time discussing all that he had done at Channel Maker's team. Channel Maker members were confused given that Nate appeared to them to take credit for the entirety of what we had done on Channel Makers. Then he ended the video with Nate making a statement that made us all very concerned. And here is his original goodbye video. Okay. Okay. So all of this happened. The original goodbye video. So they must have it unlisted now because I don't see this on their YouTube channel. So they've linked it here. I guess it must be. Let's pop in over here. So surely they could have been more hands-on from the get-go, but they let Nate run the channel in the way and made it look like it was his channel. That's on them, or they were fine with it, or they just weren't looking. Yeah. Failures all around, including airing their dirty laundry. I don't know if it... I mean, it might be dirty laundry, but it's also, I think, his chance to try and clear the air with some of these misconceptions, because I remember this specific goodbye video. And personally, I will tell you, I was really upset when this happened, because I remember this specific video coming out, and in this video he's chronicling all of these amazing resources and people that are on Channel Maker's team, and it had never been like that before. I'd always thought it was one guy in his basement doing all this stuff. Come to find out, he's got a thumbnail editor, he's got a YouTube video editor, he's got a script writer, he has research assistants, so he is on-screen camera talent that is saying all this stuff. But then if you listen to some of his videos, or see his blog post or see different things, he would say like, I did this, me working with this channel, right? So I remember at the time, not at his goodbye video, but throughout some of his time watching videos, I was like, how much time does this guy have? How is he doing all of this by himself? I was feeling awful about myself in comparison. I know we shouldn't compare because we just never know what's going on, but I remember at the time feeling like, I am awful at what I do. I never have enough time to finish this stuff. And here he is saying like, he's working with clients. He's got all this research. He's making all the thumbnails. He's filming like every week and putting out videos. And I should really close up shop because I am awful apparently at what I do. I didn't know that he had 7 other people that apparently were also writing his scripts and, doing all this stuff. And then he doesn't say that until the very last video where he says, you guys are going to be fine here because it was really never just me. It was like 7 other people. But the entirety of the time that I remember watching him on the YouTube channel, it was me, my research, my stuff. And I felt that was really, really deceptive. And there wasn't any transparency around it. I didn't know it was part of income school. I didn't know what income school was. I didn't know who this Ricky or Jim guy was. And I was really kind of like flabbergasted, hurt, surprised, and angry when all of this stuff was coming out. Cause I was like, I've been feeling shitty about myself for me being really awful at what I do. Is because I didn't have 7 people working on the same channel as me and then passing it off as my own. And I remember like just being angry about that. Okay. So here he says, after seeing this video, I mean, I don't know if anyone else felt like that. And in fact, you know what? I do know other people felt like that, because I remember watching a post from Matt Koval over on LinkedIn, and he's saying, hey, I just watched this goodbye video, and I feel kind of deceived anyway, because he always made it seem like this nice guy thing where it was just one guy doing all this stuff and you know, maybe even giving good advice. But the whole thing was, it was not only this channel income school thing that we didn't know about, but there's an entire team doing it. And I remember I sent a message because, truth be told, Nate is still in the YouTube help realm, as am I. And I know that this group is, you know, fairly small. You know, we've got Dee and Nick and Roberto and Sean and all of the same names and stuff. So I'm going to see him. In fact, I've been on calls with him before, and I've never spoken to him, but like, it's a small group of circle. So I wasn't sitting there trying to make waves publicly and be like, yeah, I felt like this was a real like punch in the gut. And like for a year I've been feeling bad about myself, and he contributed to that, and they really could have just been more honest with people. And I didn't want to say that because it would just be weird to then run into him at the next vid summit and be like, howdy. Anyways, here we go. Next. But it's been a year now, and if this gets me some people not liking me, then I guess, you know what? It is what it is at this point. A lot of people already don't take me seriously in the YouTube space, so if this is just another nail in the coffin, so be it. After seeing this video, I was concerned about what Nate's plans might entail, especially given that our teachings and the intellectual property of Income School, and given that Nate had signed an agreement to not compete with us. So I sent him an email on June 26th, so this 2 days after, right, his last day or whatnot, expressing my concerns, but being very careful not to make accusations. I don't know if you can click on it. Oh, you can. It says, hey, Nate, I wanted to reach out to you and follow up on one thing that came up today as we reviewed your goodbye video for channel makers. The end left the team like a bit confused, since no one on the team had heard about your future plans. The but not for long raised some real concerns. Like I said in my letter to you before, I don't want to make assumptions or accusations. However, I need to make you aware of what the team perceives, so I'll be clear. It looks like you have plans to continue as a teacher or influencer about YouTube. While I hope it's not the case, given that legal and ethical issues around this, I do need to ask clearly without room for misinterpretation. Do you plan to teach YouTube strategy? ? That is a very simple question. I sincerely want what's best for you, and I hope that you have plans and opportunities that will be fulfilling and rewarding in every way. Teaching YouTube tactics and strategies would not be. I remind you that you signed a non-compete agreement when you joined Income School, which prevents you not only from soliciting paying customers, but from competing with Income School's business. I also remind you that every strategy and tactic that was developed at Income School is the intellectual property of Income School. Once again, I hope that the perception is incorrect. The fact that the rest of the team got the same feeling from the video, and that you've been unwilling to share any information about your plan, necessitates this clarification. I'm trying my absolute best to give you the benefit of the doubt, but in your case, plans could get you in legal trouble. I need to remind you of the non-compete you signed and of the fact that our YouTube strategies are legally protected. Any concerns that we have can be cleared up by very simply. We just need to be reassured that your plans do not include teaching our YouTube strategies or directly competing for or harming the business of Income School, which would violate your non-compete. I hate writing these emails. Hopefully this is the last of it and we can be supportive of each other. The lack of information at this point and the messaging in the channel makers videos just raise too many red flags to ignore, and I want to make sure you don't inadvertently do something that could cause you legal trouble in the future. So that is that. Oh, they even had the email text, so you didn't have to click on it. All right. Nate responded on June 28th, so 2 days later, with this. Hey, Ricky, I just saw your email. I just started developing my future plans after leaving Income School, and I don't feel like I have anything worth sharing at this point. Oh, gosh. I don't remember signing a non-compete document, did I? ? If you have one in your possession, I'd love it if you sent me a copy. Thanks for sending that over, Nate. Once again, Nate wouldn't make any statement about his plans, not even a statement about his intention to compete or not compete. And this was my response to him on June 28th. Oh gosh. Hi, Nate. You did sign a non-compete. Jim was pretty adamant about that. It was part of the work agreement. You, Anna, and Nathan all signed when you joined. I'll find it and I will send it over. In addition to the non-compete, all of the YouTube strategies we developed here are the intellectual property of Income School, so teaching them could land you in hot water. I'm totally fine with you not having anything to share or even choosing not to share specifics if you did have anything to share. Your business is your business, and who you talk about it with is entirely up to you. The issue with the video is it sounded like you have something in the works and that Channel Maker's audience should keep an eye out for you. It left the whole team with the feeling like you have something in the works that would be of a value to the Channel Maker's audience, an audience that was developed at Income School. Once again, I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, not assume or accuse. I've also trying to address the possibility, however unlikely, of something happening that would be highly problematic, especially given that the video and some recent actions have team members confused and concerned. Once again, I'd like to be supportive and even helpful as you move on to the next thing. If you'll accept it, at this point, I just need to be assured that you don't intend to teach YouTube strategies and tactics developed at Income School and or steer the Channel Maker's audience towards somewhere else. A response confirming that would put everyone at ease. A lack of communication will have me preparing for the possibility. Again, I'll send over the agreement I found. It's a paper document, so I'll scan it and send it to you. He says at this point in the conversation, everything moved over to a text message. Okay, so we have, hey, are you in the office right now? Can I stop by? And he says, hey, sorry, I was recording when you called. And he said, okay, I'll be over. And they try and find a time. He said, what is it you want to compete? The non-compete, your plans? And he says, all of the above, and just to clear the air. Cool. And so Ricky is in blue. Okay. So it says, all I need to know is that your plan doesn't involve using Income School IP and that you don't intend to steal the Channel Maker's audience. Then the air is clear for me. He says, my plan doesn't involve either of those things. I personally feel like I'd still like to have a conversation. You still have to talk. I'll bring Diet Pepsi, smiley face. He said, I'd be very happy to. That's what I needed to know and love to clear the air. The Diet Pepsi is optional. I'll meet either way. Okay, so here he says clearly in this text, my plans do not involve using Income School IP, and you're not going to use them to get the audience. So yeah, Nate affirmed to me he did not intend to use the IP, so never mind. He's saying that specifically. Oh, where'd it go? Here we go. We met the following morning and he told me he had a few ideas for his next YouTube channel, the only one of which was about teaching YouTube education. He didn't tell me what any of the other ideas were, and he used his time to me to outline his idea for how he could teach YouTube education in a way that wouldn't be collaborative with channel makers, benefiting both channels. I expressed concerns, but also willingness to consider it. And as a follow-up to this discussion, he sent me this email detailing what he agreed to and make his idea collaborative rather than competitive. Is this an image? It is an image. Here we go. Hi, Ricky. Thanks again for the conversation. I've put together some ideas. They aren't in any order, just possibilities. So proposed YouTube channel focuses, influencer style content, reactions, personalities, personal stories, distilled findings on broad topics. Like what's happening or working with YouTube Shorts right now. My takes on industry news, automation, AI, presenting better on camera, facing fears, general YouTube growth strategy, showcasing successful people, ways to make more money, new discoveries and methods, collaborations with other players in the space, and potential things I'd like to offer people. A free or lower price program focused on mindset, personal growth, understanding the YouTube playing field, distilled wisdom on broad topics like strategies, presenting and being on camera, eliminating distractions, simplification of AI automation, and playing to individual strengths, newly discovered methods I find or develop after the fact, consulting and higher tier masterminds that could include live events. Okay. So it sounds like we're going to be in violation of non-compete and non-solicitation, honestly. So that is the response here. Here's my response saying, I think it could be done, but that I don't think it's a good idea and that it wouldn't necessarily work out without violating the non-compete. So here he is being like, hey, you've shared this information, thanks, but it sounds pretty much like you're doing all the things that you just assured me that you're not doing, or said that you're not going to do, right? Oh my God. Here we go. He says, hi, Nate. I think this, as you've outlined it, you could definitely avoid violating the non-compete or other income school IP. My main concern is that with the concept in general, I do think it may be limiting for you to have to carefully walk the competition and IP line. I definitely can't allow anyone to harm income school business, even unintentionally. So I'll have to be watching closely and make sure that the impact on Channel Maker's brand and audience isn't impacted negatively by what you do. We already have to face fallout of your leaving at the same time that we introduce the team, which makes the introduction look reactionary, something I've always wanted to avoid, but that we were forced to do. That's already going to impact the brand and the audience. So I guess I'm saying that from what I can tell from the outline you sent me, I think you could definitely do this in a way that doesn't hurt our brands and therefore doesn't violate your non-compete. So feel free to proceed as you like, but we'll just have to keep an eye on things and make sure it continues that way. I hope that makes sense. So he's saying like, try it, bro, but like, we'll be watching. We're going to be looking at you. Nate did not respond to this email. Okay. So, and again, back, because this was last year, the non-compete that he signed is supposed to be in effect for a period of 2 years. Also with the non-solicitation, 2 years. Okay. So now we would be at 1 year, but since the FTC has already said, they make even ones in the past unenforceable, but during the time when he's doing this in this last year, it still falls within that time period. So July of 2023. On July 3rd, we published our video introducing the team and an edited version of Nate's video saying goodbye. So here we have the second version of the goodbye video. We were incredibly surprised at the backlash we received in the comments, largely driven by people not knowing that this channel didn't belong to Nate. I was one of the people who didn't know that the channel didn't belong to Nate. I did not leave a strongly worded comment, but I remember reading through it and a lot of people were like pissed and felt deceived. And rightfully so, honestly. This was surprising to me given the numerous videos that I was aware of where the team members were in the videos and where office setting was clearly visible. Other negativity was driven by false assumptions about the nature of his departure. Given the negativity, I emailed Nate letting him know I had a very serious concern about him creating a channel teaching YouTube education. I sent it because I was not sure it would lead to people leaving to follow him, which would be a competitive, harming our business as a result of his choice to leave and subsequent creation of a second channel. Okay. So Ricky says, as a follow-up to this, based on the responses we're seeing on the goodbye videos, I'm not sure how you could teach YouTube without it negatively impacting channel makers, at least for the next several months. So he's like, you need to calm down. You need to slow down. Okay. This is not cooling off. This is not going the way that we thought it would. Okay. He's like, I don't want you getting into something that causes you trouble. Okay. This exact situation is why Jim and I are so adamant about having everyone sign a non-compete. Again, if you think you can do it without negatively affecting our brand, then it's your call to make. So he's kind of like, dude, I don't know how you're going to be able to do this because we're already seeing this huge, swift backlash here. Okay. So Nate responds to this email saying he'll proceed accordingly. He says, hi, Ricky, thanks for your message. I'll proceed accordingly. On July 4th, so on the holiday, Nate sends me a text message asking if I would like him to write a comment to clarify some of the false assumptions. I said yes, and I said thank you. Okay, so he says, hey, Ricky, hope you're having a great celebration. Based on the response from the audience to yesterday's video, it seems like the audience might be helped by hearing from me. Would you like me to make a comment on the videos addressing the misunderstanding? He says, I'd be happy to have you comment. I think it would be helpful. He says, great. I'm at a parade, but I'll comment after that. And he says, thanks. He says, I just posted comments on both videos to allay concerns. If you want, you could pipe in the comments so people see them. So he says, okay, fine. So what Nate didn't tell me was that he had already created a new account for his new YouTube channel, and he had already prepared a video for that channel telling a somewhat different story about him leaving Channel Makers. See this video below. And I remember that video too. He said his comments had the effect of directing thousands of people to his new channel immediately. This led to what we recognize to be incredibly and unnaturally rapid growth on his new channel. At the same time, his reframing of the story, leaving Channel Makers, refuted his earlier claim in our video that the team had helped instead of portraying the channel, especially in the early days, as a product of his work alone. I agree with this statement. He really kind of like threw them to the wolves on this one, saying like, you know, like maybe they weren't supportive, blah, 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 all this stuff. And a ton of people flocked to his new channel. I think as of now and today, he has 57,000 people on his new channel. Income School may have gone backwards. 57,000 on a brand new YouTube channel in 1 year is pretty impressive. I'll tell you that. I don't care who you are. That's pretty impressive. So his comments had the, yep, we saw that. So there's that. Nate's false claims from this video. At 2:36 in the video, Nate states, from the beginning, I did absolutely, undeniably most of the work on the channel. He acknowledges at this time that Anna was on the channel with him, but he said after that, then it was primarily me heading up all of that, and that included ideating, planning, researching, producing, the editing, the thumbnails, the publishing of all these things. They were done by me, so it was authentically me producing all of that. In the video, he's talking about how he has a whole team of people helping him. It's weird. And that Channel Makers was going to be in good hands because the whole team, and he was just one part in like the 8-person team. I remember that. He says, this claim is false. My former business partner, Jim, expressed his sentiments in a private email to me, which corroborated this statement. Nate had considerable mentoring. He had a video editor for almost all of the content on Channel Makers from the very first video. Our editors made almost all of the thumbnails on Channel Makers. We had many hours of meetings, watching videos from our channels and others, analyzing what worked well and what didn't. We provided considerable training and ongoing guidance. We provided many specific ideas for videos and even sometimes did the research and testing for videos. He regularly asked for my counsel and guidance for specific video topics and throughout the entirety of his work on Channel Makers. Okay. So he says, there were a few short periods where he edited his own videos and made the thumbnails, and there was a fairly long period where he planned and prepared most of the videos, although they were still almost always edited by others. So to say he did most of the work and that all of those things were done by him is a considerable overstatement of his work and is very different from his statement on the Channel Makers videos where he says he's been present throughout the entire growth of the channel and where we showed as a team that has also been involved in the growth of the channel through its existence. Okay, next point. At 3:51 in the video, Nate says, it became clear to me that in order to proceed and continue on with creation and being an entrepreneur, I needed to do my own thing. This led many people to believe that Nate was no longer able to make the videos he wanted to make on Channel Maker, which isn't true. Nate had a lot of creative control over all the content. It also led people to believe that in order to be an entrepreneur, Nate had to leave Income School. This is also not true. I encourage my team members and give work time for individual projects. Most members on the team have their own YouTube channels and blogs wholly owned by them on topics of their choosing. They don't just get to teach YouTube and blogging strategy in competition with Income School. This seems fairly benign as a statement because when I worked at TubeBuddy, I wasn't allowed to make videos talking about YouTube strategy because that's what YouTube channel for TubeBuddy did. So I was allowed to make other things. Like if I wanted to make beauty content, if I wanted to make fashion content, that was fine. I could not make videos that were about how to make better videos, about how to read analytics, about how to do whatever, because that would be in competition with TubeBuddy. Okay. I think a lot of you remember that when we had discussions about that. Okay. So then we move over here and it says, as already discussed in this post, Nate had many opportunities to create his own channel. I even gave him $10,000 bonus specifically for this purpose. The channel he planned to start never started. I even offered to let him use our equipment. He had every opportunity to be an entrepreneur and to continue teaching YouTube strategy while working at Income School. At 4:37, he says he tried to transition as well as he could so that included planning some upcoming banger videos. When Nate left, we had one planned video. All other videos were in planning stages with other team members owning the planning. The one video that Nate planned, we ended up not being able to use due to the highly negative responses we received from fans over this situation. Again, at 5:56, he says, like I mentioned earlier, I genuinely produced most of the content on that channel. So when I said I found these channels, I did the research. It was me doing it most of the time, especially near the beginning and over first at least half to 3/4 of the lifespan of the channel that I was there. And that's where I was like, remember, he's always talking about his research, his, YouTube channels he's been studying or working with. And he says, again, I see this as a significant overemphasis on his contribution, and it isn't accurate. We had video editors before Nate joined the team. They edited most of the videos and produced most of the thumbnails, even from the beginning. In videos, Nate often referred to research he did. Yeah, exactly. When almost all of that research had been done by other team members. So starting at 6:51, that genuinely, when I did say I found or we found these things, it was the absolute truth. He says, this is false. For over a year since hiring Julia, Nate would often say when research for video had mostly been done by someone else, and he had simply reviewed their research for key points to make in the video. See, that is the impression that I had too, is that he was always trying to say, I did this research. I worked with these channels. I worked as their coach, right? And it was someone else doing their research, and then him just saying and getting credit for it, or, that was my impression as well. So he said, there are many statements in this video that are true and several statements that are supportive of Income School and the Channel Makers team. I also don't agree that Nate genuinely did a lot of the work of the channel, and there were periods of time when he did a lot of the work. But this video has statements that, in my opinion, paint a clear picture of Nate working mostly on his own for the first half to 3/4 of the channel's existence, and that isn't true. Nate told me that prior to working for Income School, he had never made a single YouTube video, ever. Everything he learned about YouTube and all the experience he gained prior to leaving Income School happened while he was being paid by Income School. This video, Nate's first video on his own channel, has many very negative comments towards channel makers and its owner, which is me, many of which contain false and harmful assumptions. I expressed to Nate that I was not happy with the comments on his video, and I was even more unhappy with him choosing not to correct any of these false assumptions, given that he wanted me to allow him to use Income School intellectual property in order to coach and consult, and allow him to violate his non-compete. I thought we had agreed that his active defense of channel makers was important to ensure collaboration rather than competition. Yet it looked to me like he was instead choosing to let such assumptions go unchallenged on his channel. I texted Nate on July 4th, letting him know that I was discouraged by the comments, but even more by how he was responding to them, and here are some screenshots of that conversation. So he says, it's disheartening to watch people still making incorrect assumptions about me in the comments to your video, and seeing nothing clarifying those assumptions. This isn't a good start to a non-competitive relationship. Not clarifying these assumptions in your response to these people is a form of tacit agreement, which damages my reputation. If you want to be in the YouTube influence space, you'll have to go above and beyond to protect the reputation of Income School. Otherwise, it will cause harm to my business, which is one of the things you agreed to not do in your employment agreement. If I sound frustrated, it's because I am, and I will be on a constant damage control for some time. So he says, sure, man, let me know which comments and I will take a look. You know the comments, you can see them. He says, thanks. I'm sure I'm overreacting. It's been an incredibly long couple of days. There's a lot of negativity and assumptions being thrown around about this big company, but a lot of love and benefit of the doubt being thrown your way. There are a couple of comments referring to you as doing all of the work, and me just profiting off of that. One guy assuming I was making around 7 figures off of channel makers. Another who haven't replied to, who said he couldn't believe that there was no offer of equity or rev share. The assumption is that I didn't compensate you fairly and that Channel Makers earns way more than it does. Again, it makes me look like a money grabber who took advantage of you. You never said that, but those assumptions are being made and not corrected. I mean, I mentioned equity being an option back when we worked out your commission, but the percentage you'd get would be small in comparison to the commission, which was the preferred option. So interesting, he did offer it. Geez, there was another that seems to have disappeared. There's Olga saying we took a massive backseat and profited off of you without anyone else being on the channel, even occasionally. That's frustrating given that I gave that directive, but I'm being blamed for not doing it. It would be nicer for people to, they're quite loquacious and verbose, or at least Ricky, not so much Nate. So basically he's just saying like, come on, man. And so Nate's like, would you like me to respond in each of those cases? Right. So that's kind of a dick response. So he's like, here's all these people commenting. So he's like, you want me to respond to these comments? And I'm sure he's kind of like, hey, in general, maybe you could. Anyways, I'd say to respond in a way that's acceptable to you, but doesn't mischaracterize us. So when someone says you did all the work, a response that includes something like, hey, that's totally fair, but it's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, right? So he's even giving some ideas of how to soften the blow. Look at all of this blue text that's happening. We get occasionally a thumbs up from Nate. Okay. So again, he's just really reiterating all of this stuff. So in this conversation, I made Nate aware of some of the comments that made inaccurate and unfair assumptions about the situation. And I asked him if he would help correct some of those assumptions. So he's on damage control, right? The videos have gone out. The video responses, they're not going well. People are flocking to the new channel. People are probably angry at Income School, Channel Makers. They feel deceived. They're throwing around accusations. Nate is gaining subscribers up the wazoo. Okay. There's a lot of stuff happening right here. And, he's right. If he's not saying anything and he's putting out kind of this narrative like, oh, I did all this work and here they are. Yeah, it's not looking good for Channel Makers. So instead, it appears to me like he chose not to correct misinformation. On the evening of July 5th, I received a voicemail from an attorney. Oh, God. Here's the transcript of that voicemail. Wow. Hi, Rick. This is blank. I'm a lawyer in Boise with blank. I represent Nate Black. Nate Black hired a lawyer. Nathan asked me to give you a call and follow up on the email message that you sent him earlier today about his recent departure from employment with Income School and moving on to something else. I am not here to cause a dispute or argue with you or anything like that. I find that these situations, the parties are usually better off if they just let each other go their separate ways and depart in peace. But if you have concerns with what Nathan is doing or intends to do, you're more than welcome to give me a call. I'm happy to talk through those to see if we can't find some common ground. Nathan's aware of the terms of non-compete and that he signed, and he wants to honor those obligations. Oh boy. So, as he understands and I understand them, so any event, if you have questions or concerns, reach out to me. Here's my number. Thanks very much. And he says, I called his office. I left a voicemail to the effects saying that going our separate ways with him, honoring his non-compete was all that I wanted. And that if Nate would like to do that, then he wouldn't hear from me again. We also discovered that even though Nate lives in Idaho, he registered his new LLC in the state of Utah on the same day of July 5th. So Nate has it in his contract that he is not allowed to start a business within 150 miles. Even though he lives within 150 miles, he files his paperwork for his new company in Utah on the same day that his lawyer calls and leaves a voicemail. Oh, okay. Oh boy. Then he sent me this email on July 5th. Okay. Hello, Ricky. Hope you and your family are doing well during what I'm sure is a very difficult time. Well, you're not helping, dude. You're helping with that. Anyways, what follows are my feelings and opinions and about our professional relationship and no way reflect personal relationships. Oh boy. I've done my level best to leave income school in a good place and protect the company's reputation. I've gone above and beyond by speaking highly of the team, encouraging people to stay on even if they were considering leaving, and this on my own channel. I've kept my communication professional and not once intentionally done anything publicly to defame or harm the company. It has always been my intent to see the company and its clients flourish. I feel like the treatment has not been reciprocated back to me publicly or privately. Oh boy, he's coming in hot. He says, I fulfilled my responsibilities as an employee completely within the limits of my weaknesses and always acted in the best interest of the company to the best of my ability. Well, then why did you start a competing company? I digress. What a business owner tolerates, they get. If something needs to be changed, it is the owner's prerogative to clearly communicate and make sure it has changed, not the employees. An employee with no ownership and unclear direction doesn't have that responsibility, in many cases doesn't have the awareness or power to change it, and cannot and should not be spoken about publicly as if they have that ability. Ooh, I feel like he's now like blaming Ricky. Is anyone else getting that? Any statements about how much employee was paid and how it was more advantageous to the employee than the owner of the company are the fault of the owner, because it was again what the owner agreed to. Likewise, my statements about how an employee was paid salary from day one while the owner didn't make anything when the business stated as a form of blaming are once again the fault of the choice of the owner. Oh Lord, did he have a lawyer write this? Employees are agreed to provide a service and the owner agrees to pay the employee. If the owner is unhappy about either the performance or the arrangement, it is solely the owner's responsibility to communicate and rectify. You know what's funny is I recall there being an email about how he was unhappy with his work and asking him to do multiple things, like include other people on the channel to account for his time. And none of those things. So he seemed to call out what was happening and ask for changes, but the employee did not seem to do those things. Or when asked, feet to the fire, hey, what are you doing with your time? He says, I quit. So, undue emphasis on employees' actions or lack thereof by owner only emphasizes the action or lack thereof the owner themselves. Holy shit. I've never read this, y'all. When shared that way publicly, it actually does far more harm to the owner's reputation than they might realize because they don't appear to be owning their mistakes. Dude, I actually feel bad for this Ricky guy. From my perspective, I've been the one that initiated every attempt at resolution or coming to that. I don't even think that's true because there's been multiple emails that this guy, Ricky, has sent to him. And he's approached him many times, always like with a very kind, like, I'm not trying to make assumptions. That's weird. It's weird. Okay. It's weird. Okay. Every recent initiation of contact on your part has been to threaten or demand something. I simply ask for an open conversation to find good mutual solutions. I have a family also. I am a human also. I have people to help and serve. I wish much of this situation could have been handled differently. And I've done my best to own up to the mistakes I'm aware of. I'm not seeing the same from you in your public or private facing messages. It's now to the point of damaging my reputation. Dude, please offer me the same courtesy you've requested and I've done my best to do, and stop directly or indirectly placing blame on me. Please stop demanding, applying, or threatening action against me as well. I genuinely wish that things could have gone differently. Like I mentioned earlier, I've initiated every attempt at reconciliation and at this point feel strongly that if any form of reconciliation is to be made, it will not be me initiating it. Oh my God. I have such a visceral reaction to that it's like slimy. Like I am so like taken aback by that because I feel like everything we've laid out here does not have that undertone of what Nate is implying. It sounds like Ricky tried so many times to be like, hey, we need to have other people's channel. Hey, we need to be doing this. Hey, here's some money for a YouTube channel. Hey, like, is this just me? Is this just me? Oh my gosh. This email came as a shock. Yeah, no kidding, right? He said, there were no other communications between Nate and me during this time, so I was surprised to hear that he thought I'd been making demands or implying or threatening actions against him. I didn't intentionally imply or threaten action in my text messages and still don't see that in the words I wrote. I think he was trying to be like, dude, you're walking a very dangerous line here. Like, and hey, if we're buddies and friends and stuff, please don't make me go down a road that is going to involve legal action. I feel like he was trying to be really nice about it. I don't know if Nate was just taking that as, obviously he was taking that otherwise. Likewise, I didn't see my request as a demand. It was a request. I was intentionally clear. However, that if he wanted a collaborative relationship, he would need to try harder to not imply that he had agreed with erroneous and harmful statements about the team behind Channel Makers and its owner, me. This wasn't a demand or a threat. I was trying to set a boundary. At least that's how I saw it. But based on this response, I felt that I couldn't have a collaborative relationship with Nathan, so I responded back with the following. Yikes. I feel like this has gone like, I feel like he's, being like, hey, I don't know if I like this. It makes me feel kind of funny. And he's like, I've hired a lawyer and I'm like, screw you. Like, I feel like this is like really like, it went 0 to 100 real quick. You know what I mean? Like, wow. I feel like that was harsh. Tell me if y'all agree with that. Oh my gosh. It says, Nate, I'm sorry you feel that way. I don't think that you have any understanding of how hurt and betrayed, yeah, it sounds like hurt and betrayed, that I am, and every member of the team feels by your actions. You may not realize the impact your actions have had, but they are significant. I've kept my responses to some slanderous comments as factual and respectful as possible while still clarifying the falseness of these assumptions. The one comment I made regarding pay was to someone who literally accused me having you do all the work while I took all of the profits, an accusation leveled multiple times. That was not at all correct, which you well know, because he said he got paid multiple years of 6 figures. So I'm not threatening you. I've reminded you that if you want to work in a space that could be made competitive with income school, it depends on me allowing it and choosing to not clarify errant assumptions about me in your responses to comments on your channel is not a good way to start a collaborative relationship. I wouldn't want to collaborate with him. I don't see a way that I can work with, yeah, no kidding, going forward. I don't give permission in any way to violate any of the terms of the work agreement that you signed. I intend to enforce it as it is my right. I still wish you the best in whatever it is next. It's unfortunate that I can't be part of it. Yeah, no kidding. Oh wait, what happened? Where'd it go? Yikes. Okay. Let me come back to, let me put this back at the regular. Okay. Man. Wait, oop, I went too far. Okay, that email. Okay, here's the next one. The next day I received an email from his attorney. So he's not talking to him anymore. Okay, he's only talking through the attorney. He says, Ricky, I want to follow up to my voicemail message that I left. As indicated in my message, I provide legal counsel to Nate Black concerning this recent departure. He's provided me with correspondence and documentation and at-will employment dated February 2020, and he has the agreement. I've carefully reviewed Section 7 of the agreement, the non-competition and non-solicitation, which purports to prohibit Nathan from competing with Income School for a period of 2 years. That's what I remember. From any area that is within 150-mile radius of Star, Idaho, or Rexburg, Idaho. I've analyzed Section 7 of the agreement in the context of Idaho statutory and case law, and in light of my extensive experience preparing, reviewing, and interpreting non-compete agreements for both employers and employees over the past 35 years. Okay. Your most recent emails to Nate appear to blame him for online comments made by unrelated third parties, which you perceive to reflect negatively on Income School and you. I am unaware of any legal obligation that requires Nate to refute or counter such comments. As you likely know, the Communication Decency Act strongly favors the unrestricted flow of ideas and comments online. So he's like, he doesn't have to do anything to you, so they can just slander you, doesn't matter. But you can rest assured that Nathan will endeavor to conduct his affairs in compliance with applicable laws. Any attempt to restrict or inhibit Nathan's lawful activities will be met with a stiff and vigorous defense. You are welcome to contact me by phone or email if you believe I can be of any assistance to you. Oh, goodness. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. He's basically saying, leave my boy Nate alone because First Amendment and, like, he has no obligation. Okay. So he responds to the lawyer because Nate's not talking to him. He said, my message to Nate regarding those comments was not intended to apply a legal requirement. It applied to what he told me he would do. I understand that he is not responsible for comments made by others. I was merely telling him that his responses to those comments, which contained false and damaging accusations toward me, appeared to a reasonable person to imply agreement or confirmation. I know that's not legally enforceable. I was just under the impression that Nathan would honor his word. Based on his message to me today and our recent interactions, I have no intentions to continue any further correspondence with Nathan. He will only hear from my legal counsel if we find he has legally violated his agreement or used my intellectual property without permission. Please let me know if you have further questions or concerns. If needed, I will direct them to my attorney. He says, oh, goodness. Okay, now we're getting both attorneys. Nate's attorney responded, I bet he did, because he can billable hours. Thank you for your email and your message request yesterday. I have appreciated your response. Open communication is critical to avoiding and resolving disputes. To that end, I encourage you or your attorney to reach out to me if you have future concerns about any of Nathan's post-income school activities. Reasonable parties working in good faith can usually find a way to peacefully coexist. So he's saying play nice. Okay. Here is my final response to Nate's attorney. And he says, I agree entirely. Open communication is exactly what I want, which is why I let him know that I thought his responses to certain comments weren't in line with what he told me he would do. Nathan and I spoke after he left about the possibility of him teaching YouTube strategy on his own channel, which would be difficult to do given the agreement that he signed. I told him I was willing to work with him so it would work collaboratively in a way that wouldn't compete, but that would benefit both of us. Before and since that conversation, however, his actions have shown he's not willing to abide by the things he and I agreed upon would be necessary for a collaborative work relationship. That being the case, I'm not interested in ongoing business relationship with Nathan Black. I'm prepared to take whatever action is necessary. Oh, he's saying hold my beer. Don't provoke me. To protect my business. However, I have no interest in taking any action that would very much prefer if he would just move on and keep his agreement in good faith. Don't start nothing, won't be nothing, right? The only reason I've had any communication with him since he left is because he expressed interest in creating a business that would be almost certainly violative of his agreement with me, and he wanted my buy-in and my collaboration to make it mutually beneficial, in which case I might have been willing to amend the agreement. That option is no longer on the table, and I'd like to move on and not have further contact with Nathan. He says, ooh, I also have no intention to contact him at all, unless my attorney and I see behavior from him in the future that violates our agreement. If that happens, we'll reach out to you immediately. So he says, I have since had no further communications with Nate or his attorney directly. I believe, based on my communications with Nate's attorney, that Nate intended to uphold his agreement with me. However, on July 10th, Nate published this video entitled, I'm Back, in which I believe he violated the employment agreed that he signed. Oh, we thought it was over. It was not over. It was not over. At the end of the video, he admits that he intends to teach YouTube education on his channel. Here is a screenshot from that video. Nate Black's back next Monday. You are the reason I'm doing this. Thank you. And yes, I'll be sticking with YouTube education with a twist. Again on July 17th, 24th, 31st, August 7th, Nate published his own YouTube education videos all within an hour before the time that the channel makers always publishes their videos. That publishing schedule has been... Okay, so Nate knows what time channel makers
publishes their videos, and he would publish his videos 1 hour before channel makers. That seems kind of vindictive, man. There have been numerous comments on his channel stating that with his videos, there's no reason to watch channel makers. And with him no longer on the team, there's no point in becoming a member of Project 24, which contains our system for growing profitable YouTube channels. Here are just a few of those showing the effect of Nate's new channel has been competitive with channel makers and income school. Ooh, boy. Yeah, honestly, Nate, you were channel makers. I have unsubscribed from channel makers. As you have said many times, people want the familiar and have an expectation from a channel. Without your presence, it's not channel makers. I look forward to your next step. There's another says, I subbed to channel makers because of your personality. I tried to watch a couple of videos from the channel since you left. I can't watch them. I thought it was your channel. Since you aren't there, it would just be a dead subscriber. So I'm glad you're still making content on your own. Oh, there we go. Creator Dynamics, who is Matt Koval, right? Since I know a lot of you watch channel makers, it's super interesting to learn that Nate was hired host all along and there was actually a whole company behind the channel. If I'm being 100% honest, I feel a little deceived. This is Matt Koval, and this was the comment that he made. And I messaged him about this too, because I was like, dude, I'm so glad someone else said something, because I felt the exact same way. I felt betrayed and deceived and angry, but I couldn't come out necessarily and say that along those lines as well, because I'm still in the YouTube educator space as well, and I'm going to run into him. But I felt like pretty shitty about this at the time too, like, because he made me feel shitty about myself like this. So I know what a struggle it is for companies, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you hire creators and then they think they own the channel, or they take the audience with them, right? Right. So here's a comment. It says, wherever Nate goes, I go with him. Like Cher, Tina Turner, Michael Jackson, the star beats the business and then the business explodes as it should. That's my wish for Nate, and I'll be there. So he starts his own channel, has a whole bunch of people following him. Oh, Lord. Okay. Are we ready for this? He said, additionally, several Project 24 members have demanded refunds. This is in their paid group, right? And despite having been active for many months, all of these fall outside of our refund policy, yet we've been forced to give refunds. This includes members who have used our service for a full 9 months. So, yikes. They're just doing that for good PR and not to get, oh boy. Okay. On July 31st, my attorney sent a cease and desist letter to Nate's attorney. This letter demanded that Nate stop posting new content and that he remove the content he had already posted teaching YouTube by August 7th. We received no immediate response, and Nate continued to post his YouTube community that week. Oh boy. Oh boy. So now we've got a cease and desist letter. We're saying you need to take down all of your YouTube help education content, and you have a week to do it. So yeah, Doug, he says, he seemed okay with Nate making a channel in previous correspondence as long as there's no income school stuff in it. Precisely. He was like, yeah, nothing about income school. And Doc Rock says, I agree with Matt. I agreed with Matt too, 100%. And stealing members of being perceived to that can be a good issue with a good attorney. Yeah, absolutely. Because if you see a lot of the defamation lawsuits and stuff too, if you see like Tati Westbrook and everything that was happening, you can just prove, even with some screenshots, that someone said, oh, I didn't realize this was what, I'm not buying it anymore, or whatever else it is. If you're causing damage to a brand reputation or bottom line in dollars, all of a sudden it becomes more legs to stand on. Okay. August 2023. On August 4th, which is 3 days before the take down all your videos deadline sent by the cease and desist order, which is not legally binding. It's just a request that can be denied, which I'm thinking is probably what happened since that channel is still up. Okay. Not only that, but the videos. On August 4th, we heard from Nate's attorney. He requested an extension of the deadline until August 12th. Okay, so he says, give me another week in order to craft a response. My attorney replied that we would extend the deadline as long as Nate removed the video he published the following Monday, August 7th. Nate did not remove the video. Oh, dang. They were even willing to give him an extension. He said, just do this. And he didn't do it. On Saturday, August 5th, a member of my team had an in-person conversation with Nate in front of his house in Idaho, which proves that he had been living and operating his new business in Idaho despite his non-compete. To the best of their recollection, he made the following points. Oh boy. Oh boy. Nate said something to the effect of, if you wouldn't mind, just look into the direction non-compete law is going in America. The overall impression I got from the conversation on non-competes was that he believes they are unfair. Nate said, okay, but you already signed it. Nate said, you could have also then be like, no, I don't want to, like, they outlawed it now, but this is August of last year, so it was still in effect. So during the time when all this was going down, he was still bound by non-compete, which would have been by 2 years. But people are also trying to repeal, they're trying to appeal and make it enforceable. But technically, he was still under non-compete at this time. Okay. Boy. Okay. The overall impression I got from the conversation on non-competes was that he believes they are unfair. Nate said that things are implying that it isn't right to make someone go to work at McDonald's after they spent years gaining experience in a specific industry. I retorted by pointing out that all of the other options he has to work in the YouTube industry, such as using the skills he's learned to build a YouTube channel on any other topic aside from YouTube education, become a channel manager for another YouTuber, or work for a company such as vidIQ. But I said he's choosing to compete in the most direct way possible. That's true. He agreed with me and changed the subject to how he can't be done with the YouTube teaching because he isn't ready to be done with it. So he's saying like, but I want to. He also said there were things about the situation when he signed the non-compete that I didn't know, but I wouldn't tell me what they were. And I said for all I know for sure that it was an at-will employment, so he should have quit if he didn't want to sign the non-compete. Yeah, he could have also asked to have the non-compete removed, have it shortened, have it anything like that. He didn't. I do not remember him saying the exact words of non-compete laws are immoral, but I asked him repeatedly why he thought it was okay to violate the non-compete he signed, and the impression I got was that he thinks it's okay because he shouldn't have had to sign it in the first place. I shouldn't have had to sign it in the first place. I signed it. I was fine with it in 2020. I collected a 6-figure paycheck for 3 years, then decided to leave, then decided that the non-compete that I signed 3 years ago was immoral. He never claimed to be violating the non-compete and didn't argue with that. As far as I can remember, he simply justified why he should be allowed to ignore it, often by way of redirecting the conversation to, Ricky did things that were unfair too. Oh my gosh. Well, he did things too. Like what? Asked you to account for your time in the 4-month period where you only worked 1 week? Asked you to be in office? Like, because they couldn't account for your work hours? Asked you to credit other people because you weren't the only one doing it? Asked you to bring on other channel members because it was supposed to not be the one-man show? I'm reading this, I'm getting more angry. This is really the end of it, though. When I asked for clarification on those things, he would tell me things I was already aware of, such as the letter Ricky sent, so see above. When I told him it seemed that he was intentionally hiding the team from channel makers, since I began working there over a year ago, despite knowing Ricky's wishes, he didn't argue. He knew he had been asked multiple times, including a video that he was asked to publish and he never did, which included someone else as being introduced on the channel. And that video was already edited, and they said that he could put any finishing touches on it, but to publish it. So his directive from his boss was publish this video, and he never did. So when I told him it seemed he was intentionally hiding the team from channel makers since I began working there over a year ago, despite knowing Ricky's wishes, he didn't argue, as he did on other points I made that he disagreed with, and he became silent because he knows. And he says, this is the situation regarding Nate Black and channel makers up to this point. I hope it helps clarify on what actually happened. If anyone believes that something in this statement is inaccurate and can provide any evidence of such, please let me know and I will revise it. The entire statement is true to the best of my knowledge. This first person comes in and says, like, Part of me feels like you hired a personality that doesn't play well with others. Nate is not the type of person who is a team player. I'm not a team player type of person either. I do better solo, and that's nothing wrong with that unless you expect me to be something I am not or have no internal. You know, other people are saying now too, like, it seems like you're really just coming for him and all of this stuff. It's unreasonable to hold him accountable, and interesting. And so a lot of people are saying, like, you really shouldn't be airing out all this dirty laundry. And he's kind of like, hey, I'm backed into a corner here, and I feel like this is the only thing I can do to not clear my name, but be kind of like transparent as much as I can. So that is the statement that Ricky Kessler, the owner of Income School, has made specifically about why Nate Black left. So, wow, what do we think about that? Like, I got opinions, I got thoughts. But like I said, I feel personally like a lot of the time Nate did come off as the person who said that he was responsible for channel makers. He owned channel makers. I don't get that same thing with Rob Wilson and vidIQ. I don't get that same thing with, Hamdi over on Descript. I don't get that same thing from some of the, the creator that Genius Links has brought in. I don't get that same thing from Doc Rock about, owning it like Ken and Glenn do. But I did get that feeling from Nate. So I'm really curious your guys' thoughts on that, but I don't know, man. That was a lot. I think I've said my piece on that. I feel like the reputation damage that's happened is partially their own fault, partially not being transparent. It falls on him as a boss too. He made a lot of mistakes. He should have had tighter timelines. He should have had more control on the YouTube channel. He had an employee that was doing directly in the things that he was asking him to, not doing the things he asked. Like, you need to put other people on this channel. If that video didn't go up, he should have gone in and made it public. You know what I'm saying? They had not only some issues communicating, but I feel like Nate then eventually felt like, this is my sandbox. This is my playground. I'm responsible for all of this. But in fact, Ricky could have come in and flexed and be like, look, you're hired to be this on-screen personality, but you don't own the company. In fact, you turned down equity so you could have commissions. You wanted more money now instead of equity in this own company. So, but it's on Ricky, who was just hands off for, it seems like, a while. So you come back 4 months later and be like, I don't know what you've been working on. Well, that's your fault for not checking in on what your employee is working on. Why didn't you have more weekly communication and Zooms with him? Hey, send me what you were working on. Hey, tell me the videos that you're doing. Also, Nate could have been like, well, I didn't know if you still wanted to do this video course. You could have been like, call me. So it sounds like sometimes they didn't communicate either, and who knows for how long. But the guy could have been like, hey, I want to see these 20 videos, where are we on this? And maybe he's just got other stuff going on and he's just like, Nate's going to take care of this. But that's also on him, because Nate's also an employee who has to have these boundaries apparently and be very cut and dry about hey, I need you to do this and this and this. But sometimes even when presented with, I need you to publish this video and do it on our YouTube channel, it didn't happen. Okay. So I feel like I understand where Ricky's coming from. I feel like he's made a lot of mistakes with entrusting too much responsibility on someone else, not enforcing the rules that he set out, not actually where was he? Why didn't he come up with a video statement on channel makers? I know he could have been crucified for that, but if he felt like this was a real thing, why didn't he come out and be like, hey, this is what's going on. I am, reintroduce the team, instead of Nate being like, yeah, it's a great team over here. You'd be like, I am the owner of this company. Here's everyone that works here. Here's what we offer. We wish Nate all the best. And something he could have, I don't think to my knowledge, he ever had that video that came out and said I'm Ricky and I'm the owner of Income School and I'm the person behind this company that owns this YouTube channel. I didn't see any of that come out either. So he was kind of hands back, right? But I also feel like if Nate has been over here being fed scripts and edits and all this stuff, he's kind of riding easy street, right? And then all of a sudden he gets a little cocky, oh, this is my YouTube channel and I'm the only personality on it. And, people think of me as channel maker. I am channel maker. My face is on channel maker banner. And then all of a sudden he's kind of feet to the fire a little bit more. Like, what have you been doing with your time? You know, you've been slacking off and you know that you haven't been doing that. And you're like, I'll do it myself. Right. And then you go out there and then be like, well, I know this is breaking the rules, but you know, I don't think I should have had to sign this thing anyway. And I don't think it's fair. So I'm just going to ignore it. Let them sue me, see what happens. I was like, that's pretty gross, especially to a guy in company that's been sounds like pretty good to you for multiple years. Yikes. I don't like that. Okay. And I think actually the girl that they mentioned several times, Julia, has been on several of these calls as well. And so I know that these people are still around. The channel makers team is still around. It looks like they're still putting out content. I believe that Ricky's in some of them, Julia's in some of them. They have other people in them. I don't watch a channel. I don't watch Nate's channel either. I don't. I kind of wash my hands of all of them. I will play nice with him if I see him and if I need to, but like, I don't like it. I don't like what they did. I don't like what Income School has done. I don't like what Channel Makers has done. I don't like what Nate has done. They're not people that I would probably necessarily like go out of my way to ever collaborate with. Not that they want to collaborate with me, but just personally, it just doesn't seem like, I don't know, man. I mean, it seems like Ricky seems to be a nice guy. He tried a lot, I'm going to say, to communicate. He's very verbose. But like, I feel like hopefully everyone has learned some lessons, but I also feel like Nate was really sneaky. Like, I'm going to open up this business exactly here where I live in Idaho and just like, and like, I don't care. They can sue me. Like, they can literally sue me. And here's my attorney. And I just feel like it could have gone a lot differently if they had maybe talked to each other more and just trusted each other more, but also like been transparent with their audience more, because I'm sure a lot of people stopped wanting to be like in whatever course thing they were because they thought Nate was leading it, or it's just weird, man. It's a weird situation all around. And I just want it to be a lesson for any of these brands that go out and then hire the face of their channel and don't have any kind of transparency upon like this person's an employee, or this person actually works at the company, or this person is an owner in the company, this person's a developer in the company. And I just think there's going to have to be more transparency around it, because we're just going to have messier situations like this as the channel gets deeper. And then like, what was all of it for if you look now and everything from a year ago back is all private or like unlisted? It doesn't exist anymore. So all those videos, he doesn't own them. He can't put them on his own channel. All of that information and knowledge is then lost to the internet. People don't get to watch it anymore, which it could have had some good information in it that could have helped a lot of people, which was supposed to be their whole goal. And now they're playing this whole, like, you can't have your videos out there. Like, it's weird. I don't know. It's weird, man. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but I had a lot to say about it. I didn't have a lot to say. I have some things to say about it. They had a lot to say about it. But again, that's only one side of the story. You know, is Nate going to come out with a 10-page expose? I don't think so. But he's pretty much moved on and seems to be doing just fine for himself. But again, things like this have happened. Like Nolan Molt just recently left Sean Cannell and Think Media. I think his first video on his own YouTube channel was, I got fired and now I'm starting to run my own mastermind and trying to get to $10,000 a month, something like that, or $50,000 a month. And I think a lot of people were also then almost having this correlation like, ooh, Think Media just fired Nolan or got rid of Nolan, so we're all going to flock to this new YouTube channel. And I saw Sean Cannell on a podcast interview and he said something is like, yeah, you can have a non-compete, but it's not the same as non-solicitation. So kind of like intimating that like, maybe you shouldn't be going after the same audience, and maybe it's like, hey, wish you well, but like, don't violate your terms and agreements. So that is just going to become more and more common, just period. So have this be a warning to any of those brands out there that are going to hire a front person that are going to do all of this. Who's behind my channel? It's just me, myself, and I. Big old mess. There's a couple puppies that kind of don't help. So it's just me. So, all right, I've lost my voice. I'm going to go because that's 2 hours long. But, you know, I'm just trying to make up for the last week when I was gone, you know, because my knee and all that stuff. So I thank you all for hanging out with me. I did put a community post up, though. Bad YouTube advice, hot takes that you want to put out there, you should put them, because I'm thinking of making a video with it, just reacting to the stuff that you put. So leave a comment on it. If you want to leave a comment on this video, would love that. All right. And give it a thumbs up boop on your way out. All right. Appreciate you all. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next one.